Hello, lovely people, and thank you for listening today or watching. I am thrilled to have you here, and I'm also extremely thrilled to have today's guest. Kelly Sullivan Ruta is a former clinical psychotherapist of 2 decades who evolved to become a sought-after breakthrough strategist in the entrepreneurial world. She helps women elevate into the 1% by disrupting themselves to create a powerful identity that matches the business outcomes they desire. Kelly believes that women are being called to rise and lead like never before in modern history, and that entrepreneurs are perfectly positioned to create a massive healing impact on the planet when we create abundance and success. We agree on that point very much. She seeks to positively impact thousands of women worldwide by teaching them to create strategic personal mastery so that they are confident, brave, and in command as they scale their businesses to 7 figures and beyond. Kelly is a hardcore introvert, though you won't notice that on today's interview, I imagine. She's a Starbucks addict, full-on Scorpio, hell yeah, and lover of all things beachy.
Yes.
When she isn't working, Kelly, well, normally, she's hanging out with her ride or die besties or her husband and 2 sons, often on the baseball field, but as often as possible with a good book, a martini, and her toes in the sand.
Yes.
I imagine she's doing more of the latter these days, though.
There's more martinis than sand right now, but that'll change hopefully in the near future.
I hope so too. Yeah, and probably not as many baseball fields.
Yeah, there's no baseball fields right now.
Oh.
So I know. Next year.
Kelly, you're amazing. And I'm beyond grateful to have you as a dear friend and client for so long. And I'm super grateful to have you on the show today. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. I feel exactly the same about you. And I feel honored to have this conversation that I have a feeling is going to be epic, and honored that it's going out to your audience. So thank you so much for having me.
Yay. All right. Here's the first question. You ready for it?
Bring it on, baby. Bring it on.
What kind of impact do you want to make in the world over the next 5 years? And if 5 years is too crazy long, given the world we live in, you can say 5 weeks or 5 months. But what's the big impact you want to make?
Yeah. So for me, the mindset program that I have, I look at it like, and it has been referred to as the Harvard of mindset. And so there's a couple of things I want to do with it. Number one, I want to get it into thousands of women's hands across the globe. And number two, I want the quality and the outcomes of this program to drive raising the bar of the mindset coaching industry, which is scary low right now. Really, really scary. So those are the 2 big things in terms of impact on the world. But for my own family, I feel that I'm the person in my family who was called to change the trajectory of our family tree in terms of success and freedom and abundance and wealth and gender roles and lots of things. And so on a personal level, I hope in the next 5 years, as my kids they will both be adults within 5 years, really to have created massive change that then goes on for generations to come.
Brilliant. Yeah.
No biggie.
Yeah, no biggie.
I am kind of go bigger, go home. So
yeah, you are.
How I roll.
I'm super curious how your work has shifted in the last several months, with everything going on in the world right now.
Yeah, it's shifted in several ways. So number one, the way I'm talking about my work has shifted because I realized that for entrepreneurs, anything I teach is relevant to men and to women, but we women have received cultural and generational messages that are often different than men have received. So that is why I'm sort of doubled down on serving women. But what I've realized is that the way I talk about what I do, the way I market what I do has had to change a good deal. And that's been really challenging for me because my background is clinical and academic. And so when you get into the online world, you have to figure out ways when you're a subject matter expert whose background is clinical and academic, you have to find different ways to talk about your work so that it's more accessible to people. And that has really been a personal challenge for me. I can get up and teach it all day long. I can speak from a stage all day long, but I've never had to market things before. And so that's really been an excellent personal challenge. And in the past 6 months, 5 months-ish, since things have just, slammed into change, I've had to learn how to talk about what I do in a very, very different way. So people realize that this is the missing link for success in their business. It's not about working more hours or more tactics or harder selling or any of that stuff. It's about mastering yourself, learning how to evolve, learning how to overcome your own deeply rooted upper limits and do it in a strategic way, in a science-based way that creates long-term change. No flash in the pan, no magic pill stuff. We've all been sold that bag of goods online and we're all pretty much sick of it. So that's really how things have had to change for me in the last bunch of months.
When you just said magic pill, it reminded me of a post you made on Facebook a couple days ago where
I got a lot of feedback on that one.
I know. I read that and I was like, I was already in. I love you. I've loved you for a long time. But I read that and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. It's so powerful. And you were basically sort of talking about mindset is just the tip of the iceberg. Can you go into that a little bit more, what you were saying in that post? Because I think everybody needs to hear it right now, especially.
Yeah. So I think what we're going through right now is challenging and painful and tragic for some families. And for those of us for whom it hasn't been tragic, it is at the very least painful and challenging. And during times like these, we need real experts to step forward, and consumers need to be able to vet experts. Now, mindset, and I think my charge, part of my responsibility in this industry right now, is to demystify what that word means. So entrepreneurs always say to me, like, I know I should be doing it. I read a bunch of self-help books. I worked with a mindset coach and nothing really has changed. Like I know some more things and I understand conceptually things a little bit differently. And my coach helped me be a little more self-aware, but I still don't know how to change it. And I am absolutely sick to death of people especially in the online entrepreneur industry, marketing themselves as experts in this arena, but they're not. They do not have the rigor in their background that allows them to mentally and psychologically and emotionally and energetically safely guide people into themselves, create massive change without destabilizing them, and then safely guide them back out and into action and into doing, And there are a lot of people who are expert marketers. They could sell ice to, an Alaskan. But when it comes down to really having years and thousands of hours and training and expertise, whether it's, traditional school or it's you went through a training program or something, we're lacking that in this industry. And the people who do have that are not stepping forward enough and being visible and putting a stake in the ground and saying, this is what expertise looks like. This is what I have to offer. And so I'm just sick of it. I'm tired of it because people are actually being harmed. And when you have training in psychology, counseling, psychiatry, cognitive neuroscience, social work, any of those backgrounds where they really understand the human psyche and behavior change, you have been trained in ethics, and hopefully you are led by ethics. And I just see a lot of people practicing without those ethics in place. They are led by, how do I make money? How do I make money? And that is not who we need right now. We need the people who have these skill sets and the passion to share them with people, to step forward and say, that's BS, that's surface level, that's fluffy. In some cases, that's actually dangerous. And here's what it looks like to work with an expert. And it's gonna piss a lot of people off, and I'm totally cool with that.
I love totally that about you. I love that about you.
And here's why. Here's the deal. Those of us who have done the work to create expertise are always looking to be greater experts. We don't like go to school and then go, I'm done. I went through a certification program. I'm done. You know, I'm 25 years into this and I'm still studying all the time. I'm still getting certified in things and going through training, and the learning and the expansion of the expertise never ends. Why? Because just making money it's not my only goal. It's one of my goals, but I am determined to do it ethically. And there are just a lot of people who don't lead from that, and it's because they don't have that rigor in their background. And those of us who do need to step forward and say, this is bullshit. And we are requiring the industry to raise the bar. And we want consumers to raise the bar for themselves and say, I'm not willing to work with somebody who works on my mind. I mean, oh my God, you're going to leave a novice to work with your mind? Worst idea ever. Worst idea ever.
Why do you think that those entrepreneurs that are qualified, the ones that you think should be taking leadership roles right now, you mentioned that they aren't. Why do you think that is? What's holding them back right now?
Couple of things. I think number one, for women, for a subset of women, I don't want to say all women, for a subset of women, they're carrying around a lot of limiting beliefs about visibility. And it goes back to, especially for a lot of my clients, I find it goes back to safety. So they have some experience in their history or their background where being visible or being vocal and verbal in some way was really unsafe for them to do. And they did not fully resolve that issue subconsciously. So not only do they have a subconscious set of beliefs that makes stepping forward and not only being verbal and visible, but being willing to be polarizing and to sometimes be triggering, like that just it's unsafe for them. And they have not done the work to make that safe and to believe and have the actual skill set to handle people that are going to lash out at you and hate on you. Because believe me, it's going to happen. It's going to happen, hands down. And if you don't believe you can handle it and you don't have the skill set to respond instead of react, it's just a dumpster fire. So I think that's a big part of it. I also think that in a lot of ways, the online entrepreneurial space, like most spaces, is male dominated. And so I see a lot of men who have built very successful businesses come forward and position themselves as mindset experts when they're not. What you've done, yes, it's fantastic that you've created a 7 or multi-7 or 8-figure business. That doesn't make you a mindset expert. Right? You may have a lot of good nuggets to contribute about business mindset, but in terms of transformational mindset, that's a whole different ballgame. And so I see a lot of men not staying in their lane, and men typically have not been required to stay in their lane. And so I think we as women and consumers in general have to stand up and say, like, where are the women? I had a very... if you want to talk about this, we can. I had a very, very interesting interaction with one of these men on Instagram who is very well known, who is very wealthy, who is not only in the mindset space, but he's in the entrepreneur space and he's in the law of attraction space. And he put up a post on Instagram for a summit or workshop or something that he was invited to be part of, as the star-studded lineup of 12 men. And I tagged him and I called him out for it. And I was like, dude, I've followed you for years. This is not acceptable. You know, like a lot of women follow you, and this is not okay on any level. And he said to me, well, it's not my summit. I was asked to be part of it. And I'm like, I'm sorry, did your ability to say no just fly out the window? I mean, that number one, I call BS on that. And then he came back around to me and tagged me and said, I forwarded your concerns to the person running the summit. And then after like a bunch of women showed up and was like, this is BS, this is BS, this is BS, they came back at the end of the night and said, yay, we added one woman to the panel. And I'm like, I'm done with you. Don't insult my intelligence. So now we're all supposed to be so thankful because all you men allowed one woman to show up. Do you understand how many women are mindset experts in this industry, and your star-studded panel, we're supposed to be grateful that you tossed in a token woman? Get out of my face. Like, I was just not having it. So I see a lot of that, and I'm done with it. And it's not to say that he puts out some great content, some really good stuff, and he works with some top of the line scientists and people who have excellent credentials. But this part of marketing and this part of how we serve people has to change, and it has to change now. And it's not going to be driven by them. It's going to be driven by the consumer who says, I'm not okay with this anymore. Change it or you're losing me as a follower.
So speaking of consumers, what kind of people do you feel like resonate with you the most?
I feel like women who tend to be very ambitious, tend to lean towards feminism, even if they don't identify themselves as a full-on feminist, but are leaning towards like, this is BS. I'm not cool with this anymore. Women who really are service driven, that is a core value for them, that they want to make a mark on the world and feel like at the end of their life that their work in the world even if it's their tiny little corner of the world, made the world a better place. Women who are not okay with being unfulfilled on any level, that they know even if it's not this full blown knowing, but they just have this nagging, like, I was put here for so much more than this. And I know I'm getting in my own way. Those are my women. Those are the women who come and they say one of two things to me. They say either I want some of that confidence, that fire, that relentlessness, that I don't care if you get mad at me kind of stuff. Or they say that triggers me a little, that scares me a little, and that shows me I need to lean in instead of lean out. Those are the two types of women who tend to be sort of attracted to me. And they want to know, like, how did you get to be like this? I get asked often, were you born with just confident? And I'm like, no, I was born into trauma and loads of it for years. If you had known me at 16, 17, 20, 22, you would not have predicted that I ended up the person I am. I often say I have defied every statistic that kind of predicted the outcome of my life based on what had happened in the first 25 years of my life. The second 25 years, by all statistic standards, should not look like this. And that's why I get so fired up to teach female entrepreneurs how to create this kind of inside out mastery, because you can't let those statistics or your traumas or your dysfunctions or your history define who you're going to be.
No, absolutely not. And I feel like we were talking about this a bit before we hit record, but I feel like now is the time for us to work really hard on facing our traumas and facing our shadows and facing the darkness within ourselves. And we can't, and you were saying, like, we cannot shy away from this. We cannot go and hide in the corner. We've got to get out of our own metaphorical quarantine.
100%. And what I'm not saying, and I'm not trying to mince words, but what I'm not saying is that you have to like it or be excited about it. You don't have to be like, I'm super excited to face all the dark stuff. There are rare people that feel like that. I am one of those rare people that's like, I just want to get through all this darkness because because I understand the law of polarity. There is no darkness without light. There is no poverty without wealth. There is, so I focus on that all the time. But I understand most people don't feel that way. And 20 years ago, I did not feel that way. Like, let's be very clear. I was not excited about getting into treatment for depression and an eating disorder and PTSD and like all this other stuff. Not excited about it. Also, though, realized not negotiable. And you have to have that reckoning, that moment of, kind of that dark night of the soul stuff where you realize and you come to terms with the truth. And it's a human truth. It's not my truth. It's human truth. If you're not willing to face that darkness and do what it takes to be able to access the light, then you're not going to become the person that you have the potential to be. You cannot fully fulfill your calling, whether it's as an entrepreneur, a mom, a partner, a single world traveler, like whoever you are, you cannot consistently indulge your ego that says, don't go there. It's too dangerous. It's too hard. It's too uncomfortable. I don't have the time for this. You can't indulge your ego like that and think that you are going to fully expand into this incredible version of yourself. Those things don't exist in the same space.
Yeah. And we need to individually expand into the fullest version of ourselves in order to collectively expand into the next level of whatever evolution that we are moving through. Because I truly believe that we're evolving right now, and we are just being forced to face some shit before we can take that next leap.
You make a very good point with your choice of language. And I think before 6 months ago, it was more like we had a choice. Everybody could choose whether or not we were going to ignore what we needed to face. And I feel like the universe, the world, God, source, whatever word you use, makes no difference to me, is sort of went like, I'm done with this. I gave all you people the option to face all this, and a bunch of you opted out. So now I'm going to make it super hard for you to opt out. You're not going to be able to ignore this. And yet, and we were just discussing this before you hit record, and yet there is still a percentage of the population that's like, I don't care. I'm not doing the work. I'm doubling down on being angry or resistant or ignorant or head in the sand or just all this self-destructive stuff. And that is, you're not going to fare well after this evolution begins to sort of even out a bit, which I don't think is going to be for a while. I think we got a good couple of years of this happening before things start to chill. So I just keep saying to people, lean in. And if you don't have the skills to navigate the journey of leaning in, that's why you do programs like mine. Because it's not just about your business being successful. Yes, I want your business to be immensely successful, right? No matter what it is you do, as long as it's legal and ethical, I want you to be rocking it out. But it's for you also, because you can't compartmentalize business and life. People think that you can do that all the time. You can't. You can try, but that's not going to work out very well. So this work you're doing on yourself will pour into everything. It'll pour into your business. It'll pour into your relationships. It'll pour into your children. It'll pour into your community. But not if you opt out. Not if you opt out.
Yeah. So what kind of rituals and routines help you show up for your audience?
For me, it's practicing what I preach and teach. So my program is very comprehensive. We work on everything from desire and vision and the conscious mind to the subconscious mind, the ego, human resistance, and then sort of practical stuff like, how do you make decisions? How do you get into action every single day when you don't feel like it? Because I'm going to be honest with you. I tell my clients this all the time. If you were to ask me first thing in the morning, what do you feel like doing today? You're going to get the same answer out of me every morning. I feel like having really good coffee, getting in the car and driving to the beach, or sitting on my back porch and chilling out, listening to like audiobooks or getting into some super cool learning experience. I don't really feel like doing much else. That's just the truth. But I have trained and habituated myself to the point that I don't love the word hack, but like I sort of hijack the default modes in me that don't serve me very well, which is laziness. Like I kind of just don't feel like doing a whole lot of stuff. So I look at my schedule every single day, and I have created a life and a business that when I actually get past that first cup of coffee, and it's really good coffee, it's Starbucks or it's Nespresso. I'm sorry if that makes me elitist and snobby, but it is. That is just the truth of it. I require really yummy coffee. Once I'm past that first cup of coffee and then I look at my day, it is instant, like, not I have to do this. It's I get to do this. Look at this woman I'm connecting with. Look at this woman I'm coaching. Look at this woman I'm going on to a podcast with. Look at this conversation I get to have. Look at these people I get to serve. Look at this challenge that I get to overcome that then gets to help, I don't know, hopefully hundreds of thousands of people over the duration of my 50-year career, right? But also pours into me. And also, holy cow, I need to look around every day, every other day, and look at what's already here. Entrepreneurs, visionary people, ambitious people are very future focused, right? And that's a great thing, and it's a curse at the same time. Because if you don't wrangle it, you miss out on what you already created. I created a beautiful home. I created a beautiful family. I created a beautiful life that has financial freedom and time freedom and choices and amazing people in it. And none of that was luck. All of that was intentional. It was designed, it was committed to, and followed through on to allow. And so that's what I'm practicing every single day, along with all the skill sets that I teach people in my program, so that the human condition is not the thing that gets in my way of accessing limitlessness, which is what I talk about with my clients all the time in terms of their business, but in terms of their lives as well. And so it's about creating habits. You got to get your brain on board. You got to get your psyche on board. You got to get your behavior on board. And if you leave any of those things out, you're going to struggle more than you need to.
Yeah, girl. I'm curious. So you've got a really strong voice, obviously. How do you stay authentic as you grow and you're, continuing to delegate, bring in more help? I know that your business has grown significantly even since we've been working together. How do you stay authentic?
Also, because we've been working together, that's part of it too. Like, let's call a spade a spade. Because sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you were kicking ass before we started, but I appreciate that.
You turned up the volume on the kicking ass.
How do you stay authentic?
I will say it's a really good question. And it's difficult for me to answer only because not being authentic is not an option on the table. I am so repulsed by inauthenticity and by bullshit. And I have a bullshit meter that is well honed. That it's just not an option on the table for me anymore. I am not willing to compromise who I am, what I believe in, my dreams, my goals, my calling. I do really feel called. I'm not willing to compromise those things ever for money or for anything else, because I have to live with myself. And I refuse to wake up and look at myself in the mirror and be ashamed. I refuse. I was exposed to childhood sexual abuse at a very young age. And that introduces you to shame really early. And shame is one of the biggest threats, I think. Unresolved trauma, I think, is the number one threat to the planet right now, quite honestly. It's huge for men and for women. But a big sort of offshoot of that is shame. Carrying shame is insanely toxic for every part of you and for everything you touch. And I know what it feels like to carry that shame. And that was, handed to me by somebody else. And I fortunately had the opportunity to work through and release that. So I refuse to do anything that will bring more shame into my life. And that means I have to be self-aware all the time. I have to be constantly doing alignment checks with my ethics and my values. I have to call myself out when I veer off the path, because I'm human. So I inevitably will veer off at some time and have to course correct. And so I'm committed to course correcting very, very quickly. And so just every day I'm checking in with that, like making sure that I don't veer from my ethics and my principles and my values just to make my business grow faster, or just to make more money, or just to make people like me more, or be more internet famous or whatever. It's gross. It's old school, and I just refuse to do it.
Well, thank you. And it's an honor to me that I get to be on your team of badasses that, considering what high standards you have. So thank you for having me.
Okay. Absolutely. Absolutely.
What's your next level? How do you plan to reach and impact even more people?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because that's what we're working on in the sort of the back end of my business, is how do we get this life-changing, business-changing program that is like nothing that exists anywhere into the hands of more people. And so just yesterday, I met with somebody who is an expert at taking subject matter experts who have academic backgrounds and clinical backgrounds and backgrounds with lots of rigor, and helps them create frameworks that simplifies all of this stuff we have up here to bring it to the masses so it's more easily consumable, more that people can more easily sink their teeth into it and get excited about it. And that's something that I'm just not naturally talented at. So I am going to other people who are talented at the things that I am not, and saying, help me take these 25 years of training experience, knowledge, skills, and bring it to the masses to demystify mindset, so that people are like, not only do I know I have to do this, I really want to do this. And so that's what we're working on in the back end right now. So it makes it appealing and achievable for everybody, because everybody needs to do this work, and really more than needs, deserves. You deserve to experience yourself more as a more abundant, limitless entrepreneur. You deserve to experience a business that brings you more abundance, because you're creating more abundance for other people, and not just money, in all the ways, freedom and joy and creativity and connection and all the ways that we do it, right? So that's what it looks like. So it's a combination of more marketing and targeted marketing, and also creating entry points for people to finally be able to wrap their brains around, what the hell is mindset? What does it really mean when it's not just like vision boards and journaling your way to $1 million? Yeah, stop. Please stop spending your money on that stuff, people. Please, stop. Just stop. You're making somebody else super rich by doing that, and it's not you. And that's where my problem lies, right? Is that people are looking at super wealthy people going, well, then they must know something I don't know. So I'm going to learn how to journal my way to $1 million. No, you're not. You're going to help them make $2 million. So stop it. stop it. So that's where we're at, and that's what we're working on. And I because of how I'm wired, I want it to happen like yesterday. And I grew up right outside New York City. So my whole mentality is everything has to happen yesterday. And that is my own personal battle. It's like, I'm such a quick start and such a leaper and such a fast processor. I'm just like, I just want to get this in everybody's hands like now. And so my personal challenge is slow down. So then in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, it's rocket ship speed, and it's just off and running. And it's a well-oiled machine that is serving thousands of women. So that's where I'm at.
How can my amazing and beautiful listeners find you?
Oh, that's a great question. Thanks. So the easiest way for you to connect, there's 3 places that are super easy to connect with me. One, you can connect with me on my website, and that's just kellyruta.com. It's spelled with a T, not a D. And you can connect with me over on Instagram. I do answer my messages. I don't have somebody doing that for me. So if you want to connect, I want to connect with you. So comment, send me a message. Let's have a conversation. And I'd love to hear your thoughts and your feedback, even if it's critical about this conversation, because I am open to critical feedback that is for the purpose of expansion and for high level dialogue, right? I'm not looking for people to just pat me on the back all the time. So if you're like, hell yes, I want to hear that. And if you're like, I have a different take, I am open to hearing that too, as long as you can be respectful about it, bring it on. And then over on Facebook, I have a business page, and I also have a group for females who own businesses who are already successful. You're already, you've already hustled to get yourself to 6 figures or multi-6 figures, and you're bumping up against all this stuff we talked about. And you're like, I have to face this stuff now if I want to stop spinning my wheels and hitting the same ceiling over and over. And it's called the Limitless Entrepreneurs. So come on over and join us.
Amazing. We'll make sure to link that in the show notes too, y'all. Thank you so much, Kelly. This was such an epic conversation, just like you predicted. I really appreciate it.
And well, thank you for you being the kind of person who brings really expansive energy to these conversations. We all need safe spaces to have these conversations and safe people to have them with, because this isn't straightforward, create a funnel and you're going to have results. We have to dissect a lot of things, and we need safe spaces to have these conversations, and you have created one of them. So I really appreciate you for creating that space.
Bless you, Kelly. Thank you so much. Thanks for being on the show. And we'll see y'all next week.